Good evening. It's now 6 p.m. and the June 17th meeting of the Dublin San Ramon Services District of the Board of Directors is called to order. Please join me in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Johnson?
Here.
Director Von Heater-Leopold? Here. Director Govinder Rao?
Here.
Vice President Halkett?
I'm here.
President Goel?
Present. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, special announcements and or activities.
No special announcements.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, public comment. At this time, those in the audience are encouraged to address the board on any items of interest that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and not already included on tonight's agenda. Comments should not exceed 5 minutes. Are there any speaker cards from members of the public?
No speaker cards.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, agenda management.
No recommended changes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7, consent calendar. I am going to make a little bit of a change, so please hear me all the way through. So matters listed under this item are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by a member of the board or the public prior to the time the board votes on the motion to adopt. So I am going to ask that item 7A be held separately, and then we'll take any motion for items 7B through 7C at this point in time. Do I have any motion for those 2 items?
I just had a clarification for 7B.
Okay.
So just a quick question on that. Looking at the on-call services that were, that you guys laid out from what the annual costs were, and then it was laid out for 4 years. Do we have historically, because it sounds like it's something we've used for a number of years, so what would be nice is historically to see what those numbers are. I don't know if unless I missed it in the report, I did not see that in the report. So do we know kind of historically what are we been paying for those annual amounts?
It was not included in the staff report, but I'd like Steve Delight. He can respond to that question.
If you don't mind, then let's just take it in order. Let's go with the items that are not going to be pulled. So item 7C, let's take a motion for that. Let's deal with 7A and 7B separately and individually because it's going to require staff comment.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so a motion. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimous for item 7C. Returning to item 7A, I believe there's a correction.
Correct. Staff would like to make a technical edit to the meeting minutes, item 7A, under staff reports talking about the power outage. It was listed as 36 hours, and we'd like to make that correction to 18 hours.
Okay, with that correction, any motion to approve that?
Move approval.
I got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstention? There is one over here. Motion carries with 4 ayes, 0 noes, and 1 abstention. Moving on to item 7B. Let's go ahead and have staff provide the feedback.
Okay, so in fiscal year 23, we spent about 1.5 million.
Okay.
Fiscal year 24, about 1.3, and so far fiscal year 25 not quite over yet. We're just at 1.2 million for a total of around just a little over $4 million.
Okay. And if I recall correctly, it was like 8.4 over 4 years. Is that what I recall from the report? So it's about 2.1 per year.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So we've always been underneath that, and we're just okay. Is there a reason why we're buffering it that much? Because
Well,
if we're looking at 1.5, 1.3, and then why are we at 2. Why are we looking at 8.4 for 4 years? I'm just wondering, have the labor costs gone up that much, or in the recent past?
It's not like the labor costs have gone up that much. It is a buffer for unplanned emergency repairs. If we get one large repair, it will be a fairly large sum.
Okay. The reason I was asking is I'm just looking historically, we haven't ever gone over 2 million, and now we're asking for 2.1. So I'm just kind of curious on why we're making that significant jump. That was sort of my clarification. Trying to understand that.
It's consistent with what we've requested in all of in the previous years.
So we've always asked for 8.4.
Mhm.
Ish.
We've always asked for additional to cover unplanned repairs, and we come under if there's not those unplanned emergencies. So these are on call, so it's both planned and unplanned repairs.
Sure. Okay.
So these are only spent when something happens.
No, I get that. I'm just curious, like, I guess my thoughts are when we're trying to forecast, we're looking at historical stuff to sort of forecast. I mean, sure, we can predict the sky's the limit on anything, right? But I guess I'm just curious why we're buffering it by that much.
So
And that's just that was just my,
yeah, I think maybe it's a good thing to understand why on call, right? And why the services. Part of it saves the agency from needing to come through an emergency action and hosting that requirement through. So that's why they're saying planned and unplanned. They always want to have a contingency and a buffer to allow for that capacity. Doesn't mean they have to use it, but it sits there at their discretion underneath the on-call service.
Okay. And then have we planned for that in our budget?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's all I have.
So just so I understand this correctly, if we have, these are emergencies that, so they're unplanned. If we go over by a bit, it's well within your signing authority to get us through the emergency. You don't have to come back and drag us in here to.
Correct. So for the planned, it's budgeted mostly out of the CIP. For unplanned, it's budgeted mostly out of operating. If it exceeds my authority, I would need to come to the board.
Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for item 7B.
I'll move we approve item 7B.
Got a motion? Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll stick with that.
Okay, I got a second. So a motion by Director Von Heater Leopold and a second by Director Halkett. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimous. Okay, moving on to item 8A under board business. This is a public hearing, adopt engineer's report and direct a levy of annual assessments in the Dublin Center Moan Services District, Doherty Valley, Standby Charge District 2001-1 on the Contra Costa County Secured Property Tax Roll for fiscal year 26. At this point, we'll go ahead and have the public hearing. It's now open. The board will first receive the staff report, followed by public comment. If you wish to address the board, please complete a speaker card and submit it to the district attorney, or district secretary, my correction there, to my left before the end of the presentation. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. With that, we'll move into staff presentation.
Yes, I'd like to introduce our utility billing customer service supervisor, Mr. Alberto Hernandez. And he is going to give the presentation on the public hearings.
Good evening, President Goel, members of the board. My name is Alberto Hernandez, Finance Supervisor for the Utility Billing and Customer Service Division. This evening, I will be presenting 3 items for your consideration. Each item will be addressed separately and will include its own public hearing. The first 2 items are related to the state water project charges for Doherty Valley customers. I will begin with the Doherty Valley standby charge, followed by the incremental charge, and the third item pertains to the proposed levy of wastewater service charges for the upcoming fiscal year. The first item for review is the Doherty Valley standby charge. As you know, Zone 7 is DSRSD wholesale water supplier. Their primary water supply is the state water project, and they recover costs associated with the state water project through property tax assessments. Now, because Zone 7 is located in Alameda County, they have the authority to directly place state water project related charges on parcels in that county. However, they do not have the same authority to assess parcels in Contra Costa County, where Doherty Valley is located. To address this, in 2001, DSRSD, through board approval, established the Doherty Valley Standby Charge District 2001-1, which allows us to recover Zone 7's share of state water project costs on their behalf for parcels in Contra Costa County. Those charges are collected by DSRSD via the Contra Contra Costa County property tax roll and remit it directly to Zone 7. Each year, an engineer's report is prepared to calculate the projected cost for the upcoming fiscal year, in this case, fiscal year 2025-26. That report has been made available to the public on the district's website under the rate and fees page. For fiscal year 2026, the proposed annual assessment is $170.75 per equivalent dwelling unit, or EDU, which is the maximum amount permitted under the assessment district. On April 15, 2025, the board adopted a resolution of intention to levy this charge. I will note that no public comments or protests were received for this item prior to this board meeting. At this time, staff recommends the Board of Directors hold a public hearing and adopt by resolution the engineer's report for fiscal year 2025-26 and direct the levy of the assessments on the Contra Costa County Secure Property Tax Roll. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have regarding this item.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and receive public comment. Do we have any speaker cards?
No speaker cards.
Okay, anyone from the public wish to address the board? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board, and at that point, the public hearing is now closed. So we're going to go ahead and move to board discussion. Are there any discussions? We'll go ahead and start on my right-hand side. All right, is there a motion to adopt the resolution for item 8A?
So moved.
Got a motion? And a second. So the motion by Director Johnson, a second by Director Von Heater Leopold. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimous. With that, we'll move on to item 8B, public hearing. Adopt annual Doherty Valley Incremental State Water Project Charge Report and direct levy of the Doherty Valley Incremental State Water Project Charge for non-governmental parcels on the Contra Costa County Secured Property Tax Roll for fiscal year 2026 and for government potable water customers on utility bills. The public hearing is now open. Staff. Actually, correction. The board will first receive a staff report, followed by public comment. If you wish to address the board, please complete a speaker card and submit it to the district secretary before the end of the presentation. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Now, staff.
Thank you. The next item that I bring forward is the Doherty Valley Incremental State Water Project Charge, and is a continuation of the Doherty Valley Standby Charge. While the standby charge recovers a portion of the state water project costs, it does not fully cover Doherty Valley's proportionate share of those charges. In 2019, the board established the Doherty Valley Incremental State Water Project Charge to recover the portion of Zone 7's state water project costs that exceed the standby charge cap. Together, the standby and incremental charges ensure Doherty Valley customers cover their proportionate share of Zone 7 state water project costs. An annual report was prepared to calculate the projected per parcel cost for fiscal year 2026. That report is also available for public review on the district's website under the rates and fees page. The incremental charge for fiscal year 2026 is $182.67 per equivalent dwelling unit. It is important to note that the action of adopting the rate is not being considered as part of this board item. On April 16th, 2024, the board adopted the 2024 Water Cost of Service Study through Resolution 9-24, authorizing adjustments to the Doherty Valley Incremental State Water Project Charge for fiscal year 2026 based on changes to wholesale pass-through state water project costs as provided by Zone 7 and determined in the annual report. A total of 14 public comments were received regarding this item, and a summary of the comments is included with the agenda packet. 13 protests were received regarding the increase to the charge, and one single protest was received regarding the action to levy. At this time, staff recommends that the Board of Directors hold a public hearing and adopt by resolution the Doherty Valley Incremental State Water Project Charge Annual Report for fiscal year 2026 and direct the levy of the charges on the Contra Costa County Secured Property Tax Roll. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this board item.
Thank you. The board will now receive public comments. Do we have any speaker cards?
No speaker cards.
Thank you. At this time, the public hearing is now closed. We'll now move it to the board for any discussion. I'll go ahead and start on my left-hand side.
Nothing on my side.
If you would let me go for a couple minutes, it's time for my annual read it into the record speech. This is a Zone 7 charge. They are unable to levy the charges directly on the property in Contra Costa County, as they do in Dublin. So, first item is these are charges that are no different than what we're paying in Dublin. Totally equitable. Way back in the day, actually before I even got here, when they set the limit for the assessment district, they literally said, "Oh, state water project, it's going to be pretty expensive. We're going to go here," and I think Bert told me they tripled it. And over the course of the years, the inflation was much higher than they anticipated, and so they bumped into that upper bound. So we can only charge in the assessment district what we can charge by its formation. So this is the difference. But the take-home message is, and I want to call these people and have lunch and talk to them, is the charge is the same as we do in Dublin. It's just a different way because the zone, by technical legal machinations, can't levy it directly. We get a tiny little bit of an administrative fee. I think it's about 2%. But otherwise, it's a zone charge. It's just kind of it's like you're a fixed meter fee on your home water service. It's kind of the ante that you need to do to be into the state water project. That's my piece.
Thank you so much for that insight. That is super helpful, and that does help inform the public if they do have an opportunity to review either these minutes or the video. Thank you. On my right-hand side, any comments?
I'm just curious whether staff replied to the written commentary that we have, because some of these facts are a little inflammatory.
Yes, I personally responded to every inquiry from the public with more information regarding the assessments, and also provided reference material, both provided through DSRSD's website, but also information from Zone 7 directly, so they could gather more information on where those charges are coming from.
I can share that I did notice a lot of these same comments on Nextdoor. So I appreciate you being proactive and clarifying the facts as we understand them. It probably is a lesson learned for us as far as the notification, to be very clear that it's a pass-through. This isn't us poor budgeting, et cetera, and what it's for, which is capital investment for water sustainability in the area, is not an operating charge, and it's not an increased rate, so to speak. So thank you for being proactive with that, and I appreciate your time on it.
Can I just add one more thing? I appreciate what you just said there. And have we done anything from a social media perspective to get the message out on what the director just mentioned? Because I think it's important to inform the public and let them know and create awareness and communicate that message.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do believe that we are limited on Nextdoor in terms of response. So in response, we worked with customer service to prepare the frequently asked questions and information to put on the website and to support the response efforts. But we are limited in our ability to interact on the Nextdoor app.
So could we, let's say, I guess I'm curious of what that limitation is, but if we were to respond on Nextdoor, could we reference and say, please see the FAQs and provide the link, and then leave it at that? Or what is our...
I think the limitation is that we're only able to sort of push information, but unless we have residents that work for Dublin San Ramon and respond as themselves, that's the limitation, essentially.
Okay. Is there other forms of media social media we could put on, like whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is.
Yes, that we could do.
So maybe that's something, we could push through. Great.
With that, we'll bring it back for if there's a motion to adopt the resolution for item 8B.
Actually, before we do, I just sort of want to second Director Govindaral's assertion that we should be positive in our messaging and proactive about it, because I think silence allows the rumor mill to continue. And again, I think it's a lesson learned for us on how we put the notification in the bill for the Prop 218, etc. So I'd hate to see us do nothing. And I'm kind of hearing we're going to do nothing, and I'm disappointed in that response. And I'll leave it at that. With that, I will go ahead and put forward the motion to approve item 8B.
Before we entertain that, I just want staff to react to do nothing, because to me that doesn't sound accurate.
So this year we had our finance supervisor contact everyone that submitted a comment to provide information. We the people that did post some information, my understanding is that we were in contact with them, providing the information and the link to our website. And I do think the comments that the board provided today in terms of next year, because this is something that we need to do annually, we can look for additional ways to get that message out, and in terms of fine-tuning the postcard that we send out. The part of the challenge too in some of the other platforms for social media is that this is specific to Doherty Valley. It's not necessarily for the city of Dublin, so we do need to target it. A lot of times Nextdoor is one of the better social media platforms to target specific areas. And as Michelle said, we are limited by Nextdoor policies in terms of what we can post as a public agency. But I do think that we'll take this feedback and look for ways to message it more proactively next year.
So some feedback on the social media response is a mechanism called geofencing. So it's targeted based on how and when they hit a search engine, the advertisements or information can pop up. So it's, as long as it's within the guidelines of our communications protocol, that's an opportunity.
And then just one more area I think that we can work with Alberto and his team on is through AquaHawk. Since these are water customers, we can push out some additional messaging that way by targeting the Doherty Valley area. So I do think next year we can do some additional outreach on this item.
Yeah, no, I appreciate those comments, and I think the AquaHawk is it's a splendid idea. I think the only thing I would just say is, I think I understand, we're looking at how to do things next year, but I think we still have an opportunity this year too. So I want to make sure we don't dismiss that, and we actually do some things this year to get the message out. The other thing I just was kind of curious, Alberto, is just, you said you responded to each of these comments, right?
Correct.
Did you get after you responded, what was their response to your response? Or I'm just kind of curious to see, how did that interaction go?
Yeah, I think part of the exchange was understanding, what action was being considered at the public hearing. As I shared in my report out, is most of the protests or comments were regarding the rate, and so I responded and provided additional information on the rate changes. But I think so I think understanding, and I think that's some of the points that have been made this evening, is being, I think, more clear on what actions are actually being considered through this public hearing, and as we're sending out these public notices to our customers, maybe revising the language a bit so it's a bit more clear on what's being considered at the public hearing. But I think the response was more of they weren't really in support of the rate increase, and so I spent some time providing additional information on what that increase represented, even though that wasn't an item that was being considered as part of this public hearing.
Sure.
And there was also a sense of a lack of, I think, clarity on the fact that the rate that we were charging this year was already adopted by the prior adoption of the rates, And so I think, looking at those opportunities at how we can, highlight that better when we're, updating rates or, adopting a rate study. I think, Doherty Valley is just a very small, portion of that report, but I think, we could use this feedback to ensure that, we provide additional information when we're adopting those rates. So it's clear to Doherty Valley customers that rate increases for the incremental charge are a part of that cost of study.
I guess I'm just kind of curious to see were the folks satisfied with your responses, or was there still some ongoing, questions or issues that they still had after you responded to them?
I think they were really appreciative of the fact that they got a response from someone with additional information, and I also left it open, for further questions.
Okay.
But I think, they were pleased to have heard from someone directly from the district.
Great. Well, thank you for reaching out to them. Appreciate it.
Maybe.
Jane has a comment, and I have
He's got a hot
one
mic.
last item as well.
So, how many housing units are in Doherty Valley? 10,000, 14,000?
Alberto has this number.
Jeff, I think.
So we assess a total of 7,721 parcels.
Okay, and we've received, it's a bigger number than normally. We've received 14 comments out of 7,000 some odd parcels. I just want to get the scale, correct.
And I was
The houses, wait, I'm not done yet.
Go ahead.
And I've seen this before. Many of these have the exact same numbers in them. So either 15 separate people can do the math and come up with 41%, which is not the right number, or this is coordinated. So just please keep the scale in mind, okay?
Right. No, but I'm also looking at the scale of the fact that we haven't received this type of commentary on any other item in the last calendar year. And so maybe it's worth sharing with Zone 7 that, people are sensitive to cost increases, and I know they're doing their due diligence, et cetera, but maybe it's worth passing on to Zone 7 to share with them the feedback we're hearing from our constituents. That would be my only follow-up to that. Thank you, Rich. It's a good point.
All right, now if we may go to Director Von Leopold.
My question, maybe Doug can answer. Do you know if they're required to disclose this when the houses are sold because it is so unique? Is there a disclosure requirement?
Usually a copy of the property tax bill is disclosed, so that's what people would go from, is you would see that. They wouldn't get a disclosure specific to these charges.
Copy when I bought my house. New.
You bought your house like in 1849.
I know.
Did they even have property tax back then? Sorry.
And you look fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. I just wondered because we're going to have this trouble all the time, I believe, because it is so unique. Nobody understands it. And if it's not required to be disclosed in a sale, then it's going to come up every time a house changes. Maybe we need to think about a special, there's only 7,000 households, maybe a special card, notice, whatever, that explains the fact that this is a pass-through and a little bit about why it happens this way. I just think we need to think about that because they're lost out here.
Yeah. Well, they get that every year with the 218
The social
notice.
media and these comments.
We just
were
need to get the
generated
218
from that postcard.
Right. So we just need to get the 218 notice out in a little bit cleaner, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Get our wordsmiths on it.
I don't know. Maybe the postcard isn't big enough to
Well,
contain
that was
an
sort of what I was.
explanation.
Yeah, maybe it's not big enough. Maybe we're using the wrong
I mean,
words. Maybe it's
we're-
leaving the wrong impression.
gotta
It's just what I
remember-
said. There's probably a lesson learned
We
to clarify.
got to remember, generally speaking, although they may not be true for Doherty Valley, you're talking to people that have about not. This is generally about English reading comprehension of about a freshman in high school. And this has nothing to do with race. absolutely nothing to do with race. It is a foregone conclusion that when public agencies or lawyers or et cetera, send out notices, the words they use are too big for the average person to understand. So I think we need to really consider that, because I believe these people, I used to get mad at my boss all the time because her letters were written for somebody with a college degree, and we're not speaking to people who all have college degrees.
Okay, so I think staff wants to respond.
I was just, if I could just add one comment. This is unique. This is complex, and it is made even more complicated because this charge is split into two. It's a standby charge and an incremental charge because, as Director Halkett said, we maxed out on the assessment portion of it. We have been talking with legal counsel and staff on how we might be able to approach this, in terms of the two parts in a cleaner fashion or a more simplified fashion, because again, it's complex already, and then to have it partitioned into two parts, I think makes it even more complicated for the public to understand. So I do think that's this good feedback that we can look at.
Thank you.
I got one last comment. Sorry, and it'll be done. And I appreciate Director Halkett's comment on the proportion of whatever, but on the 14 and 7,000. But I think we just need to. I guess my point on this is just that we need to be proactive. Doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1,000 or whatever it is. We just as an agency need to be proactive and get the message out. So hopefully there is no confusion and it creates a lot of awareness and education. And that's really what I want to make sure we're doing. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 5,000 of them.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think staff is reacting and responding, saying they're going to work on that. They're going to address that. They've heard our comments. I think staff has responded. So I think we've made our point clear as a board. I think staff will take that into consideration. They are working with legal team. And so let's respect that process as well. And I think to Director Von Heeter-Leopolds is we need to simplify the communication so it's consumable by our consumer at a baseline level where it's tangible and understandable, because especially in this case, it's a unique circumstance. So with that, I did have a motion on the table from Director Johnson. I want to confirm if that's still the motion that stands.
Yes, I move that we approve item 8B.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
So I have a motion by Director Johnson and a second by Director Govinda Rao. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 8C, I will move into the public hearing. Approve annual wastewater service charges levy report and direct levy and collection of wastewater service charges for fiscal year 2026 on the Alameda County and Contra Costa County secured property tax rolls. At this point, I will now open up the public hearing. The board will first receive the staff report, followed by public comment. If you wish to address the board, please complete a speaker card and submit it to the district secretary before the end of the presentation. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Staff.
The next and final, I promise, item for consideration this evening is staff's request for authorization to place residential wastewater service charges for fiscal year 25-26 on the secured property tax rolls in Alameda and Contra Costa counties. DSRSD provides wastewater collection and treatment services to residential properties located within the city of Dublin and portions of the city of San Ramon. It is a standard practice for DSRSD to recover residential wastewater charges through the county's secured property tax rolls. In accordance with applicable requirements, staff has prepared the annual wastewater service charge report, which identifies each residential parcel subject to the charges and corresponding total amounts due for fiscal year 25-26. This report is publicly available on the district's website under rates and fees. Under the rates and fees page. It is important to note that the rates utilized in preparing the fiscal year 25-26 annual wastewater service charge report were previously adopted by the board on May 2nd, 2023 via Resolution 14-23. Therefore, the rate adoption is not being considered as part of this item. The total residential wastewater charges to be levied in Alameda County are approximately 9.9 million across 20,382 parcels. And for Contra Costa County, the total charges to be levied are approximately 2.7 million across 5,213 parcels. The charges include both wastewater collection and treatment components. A total of 14 protests were received in connection with this item, and a summary of the comments have been included in the agenda packet. 3 protests specifically addressed the levy process. 11 comments expressed opposition to the previously adopted rates increases, and 1 comment expressed support of the levy process. At this time, staff recommends that the Board of Directors hold a public hearing, approve the annual wastewater service charge report for fiscal year 2025-26, and direct that residential wastewater charges be levied and collected on the secure property tax rolls for Alameda County and Contra Costa County for fiscal year 2025-26. Thank you again for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have regarding this item.
Thank you. We'll now move into the public hearing. Do we have any public comments?
No speaker cards.
Thank you. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. We'll bring it back to the board for discussion, and this time I'll go ahead and start on my right-hand side. Any comments?
Well,
questions?
I'll just say, somewhere I read a comment that said something about this being in effect since 1971, and it hasn't been in effect since 1971. We chose to do this, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, because we get all of the money right away. We don't have to wait to collect it. Plus, we don't have to bill, so this is absolutely the best way to be doing it.
In a sense, what you're saying is it's addressing a couple of the comments about cost savings measures in itself by the approach. All right. On the left-hand side?
I don't have anything.
Me? All right. With that, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 8C. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
So I have a motion by Director Halkett and a second by Director Von Heater-Leopold. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any noes? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 9, we'll go ahead and get into board items. Joint Power Authorities and Committee reports. My understanding is there's none. Is that a correct statement? Do I have any? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 9A2, submittal of written reports for days of service, events attended by directors. Written reports are due this evening. Does anyone have any reports for days of service?
I do.
Okay.
I attended the Alameda County Special District's Executive Committee meeting last Wednesday via Zoom. We went over the May 14th meeting out in Livermore and had a long discussion again about whether or not people from Oakland will come to a meeting in Livermore. We've kind of come to the conclusion that as soon as Castro Valley Sands remodel or build is complete, we're going to have all the meetings as much as possible there because it's central. And it makes more sense that, I understand people don't want to get up and travel in the traffic at that time of the day to get to a meeting in Livermore at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that was the main conversation at the meeting. The next thing is our next meeting is September 10th. Actually, excuse me, our next meeting is July 9th, which we are hosting. September 10th, it is going to be at CB San again. The county is going to do a presentation on the committee that looked after redevelopment, I forget what the committee's called now, but anyway, that's going to be the presentation. November 12th, it's going to be at Oraloma or Hard. We're going to have our annual dinner again March 19th of 2026 at the Wedgwood. We've already placed a deposit. We're in the process of reviewing the bylaws, so if anybody's interested in having any input, I'd be happy to provide you with a copy. We still have several people that have not paid dues. As Michelle knows, Michelle and Cole have been doing the billing and trying to find who the actual person is we need to contact to get the bill paid. And then the last item is the East Bay Regional Park Advisory Committee needs a new member. And if anybody's interested on serving on that, representing special districts, let me know. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on my right-hand side? Any other? How about on my left-hand side? None? Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 9A3, request new agenda items be placed on a future board or committee agenda. Does anyone have any items to add to a future agenda? On my right-hand side, anything? Okay, I actually do. And I think it's kind of resonating with some of the topics that came up today. And I think it's also tied to maybe we haven't received an update in a while, so I'd like to request it. It's a social media update. And also at the same time, maybe any protocols and approaches that we may be using. So a little bit of a deeper dive. But then inside of the stats, I'd like you to bring back some stats if possible by county and by district. I think it's important for the board to hear maybe what the viewingship is like, how our communications are working, what are our foundational rules, and allow us an opportunity to maybe provide some additional guidance. Because in the past few meetings, I've heard this as the common theme of wanting to make sure we're being proactive, wanting to make sure that we're simplifying our communication, and we're addressing concerns that we're hearing through other platforms and alike. So I think maybe some visibility. There's been a lot of change from staff as well. So I think it's just a great opportunity for a check-in. And as we look to the new year and also we embark on the new fiscal year, it's a great chance for a refresh. All right. I hope I can garner support from the board here. I'd kind of like to, for these future items, like to kind of see some head nods of a direction of intent.
It might also be helpful to understand your expectations of us with regards to social media. Whether you want us just to scan and forward it to you, whether you want us to engage. I got the strong sense I wasn't supposed to engage when I found some of those items originally, and I deferred to staff to handle it, but then I didn't hear anything, so I felt kind of cut loose in the dark. So our role in it would help clarify and build comfort.
I think they're all excellent points, and I hope staff can. Sorry about catching staff off guard on this one, but I think it's due time. All right. With that, we'll move on to item 9B, staff reports.
Board packet includes the general manager's monthly report for the month of May. The update recognizes 9 of our staff who graduated from leadership academies, which supports the district's strategic plan goal for workforce development and planning. And we're available to answer any questions the board may have on it. It's an informational item. The Dublin Liaison meeting, just in terms of upcoming events, will be Monday on June 23rd, and Director Von Heater-Leopold and President Goel are our representatives. And lastly, the closed session this evening will be held in the GM conference room.
All right. With that, that was an indication that we're about to go into closed session. So at this point, we're going to ask that everyone remember to put their mics on mute and adjourn to the GM conference room. Thank you very much, and we'll be back to report out. The board is back back in open session. The closed session has concluded. There was no reportable action taken in closed session. Moving on to item 12, the meeting is adjourned at 8:10 p.m. Have a great evening.